How is it going? Okay, so this is going to be an interesting stream. As you guys know, we're co-streaming this on Twitter Spaces. By the way, let me know if my audio is coming in clear. Um, we're co-streaming this on Twitter Spaces. I'm on the Twitter Space, but no one's actually hearing me on there because someone's actually asking questions because of timing issues. So, pardon me when I switch. Farzad is going to be joining me in a couple of minutes here as well, so we can co-stream this thing. And I hope everyone's having a wonderful day. It's been a back and forth kind of yo-yo day today. I just took a look at the updated options and updated options order flow. We're just getting rid of our put flow at the moment. We're just almost back to kind of zero nothing burger delta bias at the moment. Farzad looks paler than Elon in that thumbnail. You got to blame my Photoshop skills. I apologize. I'm clear. Thank you. How's everyone going? He lied that he's no good with Photoshop. I am no good with Photoshop. I have to say, I try. I just saw my Photoshop subscription paid through annually today. And yeah, I was thinking about that today. I was like, should I just get an editor for my Photoshop stuff? And then I realized like, there's no point because I'm going to have to be kind of on the fly with all my stuff. Yeah, why don't you guys let me know in the chat where you guys are tuning from, city, state, country, whatever you guys feel comfortable sharing. We'll talk stock today. Tesla up 25 basis points as we sit here. The NASDAQ is actually down 86 basis points. So remember, tomorrow is going to be the biggest shaper of the week. And hold on one sec. Oh, Bradford's is just talking in the Twitter space. Let me read out some city, state, countries while I procrastinate here. And if you're watching in the replay, let me know as well where you guys are tuning in from. Sweden, Atlanta, Edmonton. Hey, Canadian. Atlanta again. How's it going, DRK? Missouri, Malta. That's awesome. Nottingham, Hamburg, Johannesburg, Los Angeles. Marco, thank you, my friend. Stockholm, Sweden. Back in Toronto. Tennessee, Sweden, or New Zealand. Chris, starting to stream off hot with a $20 super chat. Here from Las Vegas, I loaded the boat a few minutes ago. Hold until 23. Don't need the money. Thank you for all. I appreciate that. Chris, you're awesome, man. Thank you for starting the stream off hot. Bring the Juju. Hello from Mississippi. Yes, I got the Juju today. This is bullish. Slovakia, Bulgaria, Nick from Invest in the Green, St. Pete, of course. Wesley Chapel, Florida, Compton, Gilbert, Sweden, Toronto. Wow, we got people from everywhere today. LA, Sweden. And I hear Bradford's doing a great job here, delaying here in the Twitter space. And Farzad should be joining me, like I said, in a couple of minutes here. He's just wrapping up an awesome interview that he had with Jordan Giesecke and the panel on his channel. Wow, we got Dubai, Sutherland, Ireland. Hey, Martin, you're in Ireland. That's awesome. Lots of Sweden. Yeah, Sweden is very popular, and I love it. I don't think I've ever met a mean Swede before. 309.12 sitting on Tesla here as we sit. Lex, of course, from Vancouver. How's it going, Lex? I am still very much looking forward to the Tesla FSD beta ride soon enough that Lex has graciously offered me. We're just working on a time and date. It'll happen. It'll be super cool. It'll actually be really trippy because I drive the car every day, of course. But I haven't been on FSD, so I think it's going to be crazy. Yeah, so many Tesla live streams on Tesla. It's crazy. The Tesla content has been through the roof. I love it. It's almost too much to keep up with, to be honest, which is, I mean, a great problem. It's a champagne problem for sure. So 308.79, we got a lot of pieces of news to cover here as we continue in the day. Let me actually pull up my other screen instead. Where is it? Here's the options order flow, by the way, if you cared enough. Options order flow essentially was put by us all day. And now we're kind of coming back to a nothing burger status with pretty much, it wasn't call buying today. It was a lot of calls. It wasn't put buying, I should say. It was a lot of calls being sold shortly after lunchtime Eastern. And by the way, on that news, we have the man, the myth, the legend, who probably has to get his audio together. So I'll give him a couple of seconds here to figure all of this out. No worries, Farzad. Take your time. But we got a lot of pieces of news here. And he has to log on Twitter Spaces as well, so it's going to take a second. So we got production news to talk about, wait times to talk about. we got to talk about Ford and GM, by the way. Ford reported earnings the other day. We want to talk about that. FSD beta news updates. And then I wanted to talk about window dressing as well. And I put that into the thumbnail and title of this video because I think it's important to talk about. But first, I think he's ready. How's it going, man?
I'm ready. I can hear you on my computer. Are we doing the spaces as well? Are we live on the spaces too?
Yes. Yeah. I think we are.
Okay.
Did you request? I don't think I can make you a co-host, can I? I don't think so. I think it might have to be Bradford. Farzad's coming in with the blueberry color, says Mimi. Yes, exactly.
Bro, I got to represent. Come
Purple
on now.
Rain, little Hendrix reference. I like it. No worries. I guess we'll talk through the Twitter space eventually, but for now we can be here. Just let me know when. Oh, there you are. I see. So window dressing. The reason why I pulled up window dressing, by the way, as you get that all set up, in the last 5 trading days, Tesla's up 5.78%, comparatively to the Nasdaq, which is down 2.26%. So, I mean, normally with the Nasdaq's down 2.26% trailing 5 days, let's say you'd point to that and say, okay, Tesla's probably down closer to 5-ish%, maybe 4, but still red. But as we sit here, Tesla's up at 5.78%. So let me know what your guys' thoughts are in the chat. Do you guys think this is window dressing? Do you guys think this is something else?
I hear Bradford. He's queuing on it.
Bradford is queuing us in on the Twitter space, so bear with us, folks. It's going to take a hot second. Hopefully, let's just talk through there, Farzad.
Yeah, sure. No, I think what you're talking about is
awesome,
quite interesting.
So, thanks, Bradford. So I was just saying on the stream here, and Farzad, you might have to unmute yourself here to talk.
Yep, I'm good now.
We were just talking about window dressing and the trailing 5 days worth of Tesla stock price reaction. And I titled this I titled the thumbnail and the stream window dressing continues. Just because if you look at the Nasdaq trailing 5, Nasdaq's down 2.26% trailing 5 days. Tesla's been up 5.78%. So it's hard to attribute this relative strength to anything. But I do think with Tesla's stock performance this quarter being so hot, it's one of those relative picks that I think portfolio managers, should they want to be window dressing on, it's one of the poster boys, I think, for the quarter, considering how much weakness there really was out there. Do you have any thoughts on that, Farzad, on the window dressing aspect?
Yeah, I think I agree with you. I think that the other thing that's starting to become clear to me is, as I think about the upcoming quarters that Tesla's going to be facing from a profitability perspective versus the rest of the market. I don't know if your community is aware, if you're aware, but there was a news article that came out this morning talking about how Ford is warning the investors of Ford that they're going to be incurring $1 billion in there was $1 billion from a cost perspective due to supply chain and inflation and so on and so forth, quarter over quarter, which is fascinating to think about, right? You think about Q2 going into Q3. One would think that supply chains and other things should alleviate. Of course, there's inflation, but quarter over quarter, it really shouldn't be that impactful. Whereas Tesla, it's more than likely that in the coming quarters here, they're not going to be incurring higher costs. If anything, they should be incurring lower costs per unit because of their factories ramping and the different things that they've put in place, right? So I wonder how much of the market and the way it's been responding with Tesla is tied to the realization that something like this is developing. And why we've seen this overperformance versus everything else, and the Ford news from this morning may be like the confirmation that the market was expecting that, hey, in relation to every other company that's going through this inflationary environment, the Fed is doing something for a reason, but Tesla seems to be standing out from that perspective because they are able to manage it much better. I don't know what you think about that, but that's where my head has gone today, just based on the news that came out this morning.
So you're saying it's the relative strength that is becoming clearer and clearer by every passing day, right?
I think so.
Yeah. Okay. Well, actually, I quote tweeted that article that Sora tweeted out about the Ford one-time payment, and Ford actually says that they expect between 1.4 billion and 1.7 billion of EBIT next quarter, adjusted EBIT. And I was just doing some quick research, and I just quote tweeted this and said Tesla quarter two EBIT this quarter two this year, I should say, was $2.46 something billion already. That was with Shanghai closed. Quarter one EBIT was 3.6 billion, right? So, and I said if Ford is expecting 1.7 EBIT, adjusted EBIT on the high side, only going to get worse for Ford as we continue here. And it's like I mean, it was already evident where this was heading. I mean, EBIT margin, I think for Ford is something like 3-4 trailing like 5% maybe on the higher side in the last couple quarters here. So it was already heading there. Tesla's kind of weathered this force majeure storm with all the closures earlier this year, all the lockdowns, all the chip shortages, way better. And what's funny is actually you still see legacy auto highlighting, like before it was the chip shortage, chips, that's why we're not delivering all these cars, and now it's like, oh, we're going to be delivering, but it's going to be at a way higher cost than we expected. So it seems like they're always crutching to something. And if you contrast that with like Martin Viecha and him coming out in that Berlin investor meeting in Goldman Sachs and saying, look, we have everything pretty much that we need for the first time in a long time. Like all the batteries, 90% for cars, 10% for energy, like everything that we need. Finally, like our supply chain is lining up. So it seems like one side is very much getting all the excuses ready for the misses to come, and the other side is like, wow, it's like we're just getting ready for it.
That's right. It's the storyline has shifted from Tesla being an expert in my head. The storyline has shifted in my head on how the market should be viewing this. Let me just be clear about that. That Tesla is no longer an expert in the future technologies. They're not just a battery, drivetrain, software. One could make the argument for autonomous vehicles, so on and so forth. That's not really what they're experts at anymore. They're experts at supply chain, and they're experts at controlling costs. These are very fundamental things that businesses acquire over time to become really powerful long-term forces. And now Tesla's not just hanging its hat on the fact that they have a brilliant leader with brilliant leadership and brilliant workers. Now they understand that for a company to be successful long-term, ultimately what they have to do is learn how to run a business efficiently. And this is proof right here. This is proof that Tesla has become an expert at what most investors look at when they think about investing in a company, which is just how profitable can you be? How good are you at costs? It's the fundamentals. And Tesla is excelling. It's excelling at these things. The contrast of Q3 between the Ford and a Tesla, and I made a tweet about this earlier today, it's going to melt people's brains. I don't think they're going to be able to understand just the implications of this, I think, within a context. They're going to think, how is Tesla going to be able to show, I don't know, $3.5 billion of net income on 1/4 the volume of Ford?
That's the thing.
It's crazy. It's absolutely nuts.
I mean, and to be fair, like the majority of Tesla's, earnings is still yet to come in the future, like very much so. Like, of course, Tesla's already being Ford, but that's hardly an accomplishment right now. But if you look at the behemoth that Tesla is going to be, really like the exponential growth is yet still to come in, let's say. And, to be fair, we thought it was really going to be towards the middle end of this year. It seems like that's, of course, quarter four is going to be huge. We know this, but because of what happened with all the lockdowns, it pushed out a couple more quarters. But it's really going to start to compound in a way where, like, okay, if you compound from, I'm just making numbers up here, let's say 50 cents EPS to $1. Okay, less exciting, pre-split, let's say, or something small. Like, of course, that's huge growth. But Tesla's going to be going from like $1 to $2, $2 to $4. Like, it's going to get to a point where it's just going to be nutty in terms of the amount of earnings that Tesla is going to start to spit out. And I think, I forgot who had this tweet out yesterday. Oh, Lee from Tesla Economist. He said, if 4680s were at scale today and already happening, would Wall Street give Tesla the credit it needed, or that was due? Let's say is probably a better way to put it. And I just replied to that and said, like, I just think Wall Street is like with Tesla. We'll believe it when we see it. When Apple comes out and Tim Cook says something, like Wall Street pretty much thinks, okay, it's in the bag. Like, this guy's he underpromises all the time, over delivers. Like, it's in the bag, right? With Tesla, it's almost the opposite, where it's like, you're kind of shooting for the moon and you're hoping that you land somewhere close enough with timeline, especially, right? So I think, but that for retail investors that believe that this is where we're headed, and of course, Wall Street, there's a faction of Wall Street that does as well. Like we're talking exponential growth.
Yeah.
It's quite the opportunity going back and forth with, and really, like I love comparing Tesla to Apple, not because they're at all similar, but their stories are like they're. I think Tesla will one day pass Apple in market cap. That's just my belief, and it'll happen very soon. I think sooner than a lot of people think. But I just love comparing them because they could not be any more different in terms of their style. One's super corporate. Everything is kind of centralized, and they have like a PR campaign, marketing campaign, awesome scripted presentations, and like Tesla's like the opposite. But like they very much are following the same track of innovation, right?
So true. I think that's an excellent point. And really it ties into the fundamental of running a company incredibly efficiently in a way that investors are very happy. Like most investors that actually have the money. Apple is the darling. I mean, there is a reason why they're the largest company in the world, is because they are appealing to most of. Oh, shout out Tom Nash, Russian brother from another mother. Shout out everybody in the comments, Juju gang. There is that thing is happening now where there's a broader markets are waking up to the fundamental story of Tesla, and the snowball effect this is going to have into the Q4 and into next year. We've talked about this. We talk about this often. It comes up as a topic constantly. But what's the brilliance behind this community, this Tesla community, is that this came up as a topic a while ago on my channel, but one of the community members made a point where the way Elon has allowed the investing community and the public to gain insight into the future plans for the company, what Tesla is intending to do is unprecedented within the context of every other company. You don't see Tim Cook and every other CEO out there come out on Twitter and have a battery day presentation or have an AI day presentation or go on Twitter and sort of like say, here's the things we're planning, or have a master plan. These are directed to the investing community, to the retail investing community, to sit down and try to draw the same level of information, the same level of detail that investing managers or funds would have had with every single other company. It's like the Goldman Sachs goes and meets with Martin Viecha in the investment group over there, and then they get these nuggets of gold from Apple or from GM or whatever, and they come out with a report, whereas Tesla just says, here's everything we're planning, and then a community has now developed around it, made up with a lot of brilliant people such as yourself and your community and everything else and everybody else that can take these nuggets of information and understand how the company is going to end up here in the next few quarters or few years. And that's the gap. That is the gap, is that we have this coalescing community that is incredibly brilliant and is able to decipher all the things that are happening. And that's what gives the retail investing community the edge versus the rest of the market. And that's why we're oftentimes pounding the table, like, why the hell is not the market getting this, But that's why. It's because we have the willingness and the time to do it.
I mean, dude, think about it. Like, does anyone care about what battery goes into the iPhone 14?
Exactly.
Like, I mean, almost to a fault. Like sometimes I just sit down after, an awesome Twitter space or an awesome live stream, and I'm just sit down like, wow, like the amount of detail that we're go through for looking at like a battery of this car to find out if it has like a 5% increase in margin on something, like it almost like sometimes is almost existential. You ask yourself like, why? Like, because like and again, I contrast it to Apple a lot because, just loved Apple. No one cared about this kind of granular level of tech that went into your smartphone. I mean, at least at the surface level with retail investors, casual like myself, let's say. And I'm sure there's, two people out there that really did. But, but with Tesla, it's like 4680. Everyone kind of like, if you have a Tesla investor and you say 4680, they could probably talk to you for at least like 2 or 3 minutes about what they think about the technology. It's on a different level, really. Now, for better or for worse, because sometimes this kind of stuff ends up being under a microscope, and we have super myopic timelines where we expect 3 months down the line for it to be this massive change in technology, when sometimes it can just take a little bit longer. So, for better or for worse. But I think excitement around technology is good because at the very least you have a pushing or forcing mechanism in the world that helps accelerate like technological advancement. So
That's right. That's right.
right. I also pulled up this awesome graph here with EBIT that I'll try to talk through here for the Twitter space. And I'll take out Amazon for a second. I have 4 Tesla, GM, all with their EBIT on a quarter by quarter basis, and you'll see that Tesla, this last quarter, let's say, or this is I think trailing 12. This has to be. You can see Tesla ranks at the top. Then it goes GM, and then it's Ford, really. And if you of course, if you were to divide their earnings by the outstanding units that they're selling, it's just in a league of its own, right?
Bananas.
And we know that Legacy Auto really makes their money on service. Like that's how they make their money, for better or for worse. Like they're banking on financing, captive financing as well, which by the way is a whole different argument, like a whole different can of worms that we can talk about. Like if used car prices continue to drop, and they financed a lot of these gas cars in the last couple of years, and now interest rates are going to go up, and now people all of a sudden are finding that their interest rates for their car payments may be going up, or they have to finance more to get the same car, of course, but also that their used car prices declined by way more than expected. Talk about trouble, right?
It's a problem. It's a giant problem. I think what's interesting about that specific context, though, you're talking about used cars. What is the lag going to be between folks being able to access a new EV that they're going to be able to afford in the next 5 to 10 years, while Tesla and maybe a couple Chinese companies are really the only ones that are capable to scale their production to a level that's going to match demand, right? So in theory, you're going to have a market where new ICEs are probably going to plummet in demand and pricing, but used cars in general will probably be quite valuable as people wait to be able to, I don't know, to transition to an EV, or they could just hang on to what they have, until. But then you have used, car shops and body shops and service centers are going to be rolling in dough because the entire fleet is going to be falling apart by the time there's enough new EVs. It's a fascinating. But tying it back to the finance arm of these companies, you're 100% right. Over time, these cars are going to depreciate like a rock. And really, the assets that are tied to these loans are no longer going to be valuable, which is going to cause havoc in that market for sure. It's going to be weird to watch develop, and a lot of people say, well, it's not really going to be that impactful because the transition is going to be gradual, but the demand for ICEs is likely to fall way faster than the production of than the production capacity of the car industry as a whole, because you just can't flip a switch, and go 0 to 100. You just can't do it.
Well, I mean, that's a big issue, actually, that we don't even, I think that we just grace over that issue. That's a big issue because it's going to leave a lot of people in the fuzzy middle. Like I have a friend that actually, my best friend, Justin, and he's like, okay, I've got this Honda Civic. It runs great. It's like a 08 or 09 build. It's one of the years that's like, it's like perfect for him for now, right? But he's like, my next car has to be electric. Like he understands this, right? And he's like, I'm just hoping that this car can last me 2 more years. If it can last me 2 more years, perfect. Yeah, I'll get electric. Lives in a condo. He's still scared about range anxiety a little bit, or where is he going to charge and all this sort of stuff. But if his car, but he says he's like, I really baby my car because I really don't want this car breaking down in the next year or two, because then I'm gonna have to make a tough decision where I don't want to buy a gas car. So I don't know what I'm gonna do. Maybe I have to buy just a cheapie or something, just a beater car to get through the next couple of years, because he knows that not only are EVs better, a user experience, like he's driven the car, like driven our Tesla, loves it. He knows the future is EV, but he's in this kind of fuzzy middle in terms of timeline. So, and that's only accelerated if you need a car for work. Like if you need, and he doesn't, he can work from home, he can bike to work and all this stuff. So it's easier on him, of course. But if you especially if you need a truck or something, like, Ford F-150 Lightning, maybe. I have no experience with it, but it's just going to be like this like murky middle of a kind of like no man's land of people that are going to be trying to find EVs to buy And recession kind of throws a wrench into everything as well, because no one really wants to buy a car that they know is going to depreciate during a recession. Of course, like I don't even, I think it's hard enough for people to buy a car during a recession. So, you really have to be picky. And if you're going to buy one, you really want to make the right choice, because of course you don't want to, take up more loan during a recession usually. So it's just, it's just like a murky middle, I think.
And the EV tax credit on top of that. So in the US, at least, you throw that
Mhm.
that wrench in the mix as well. Like, it's great for EVs, it's great, but what does that mean for
Mhm.
the rest of the market? You already have a forcing function for people to move away from EV, or move away from gas cars, because that's just where the market's going. They're realizing sort of like, less servicing, cheaper to run. I don't have to deal with gas prices, and
Mhm.
it's faster, quicker, blah blah blah. Oh, and it's $7,500 cheaper. Oh shit. Okay.
Yep.
Excuse my French, but the equation changes at that point. It's the value of death. I saw a comment. Somebody said it in the KK said it in the comments. The value of death. 100% right. People have been talking about this for quite a while, but it's starting. It's starting to happen. There's something happening right now in the world. It feels different. It feels like the things we've been talking about are starting to show. I heard this. Somebody said this a long time ago, and it stuck with me, describing what's happening now. It's the slowest train wreck in history.
Mm.
It truly feels that way. And there's these little signals that we're starting to get, and the government's sort of pushing it along a little bit faster, which is what it is. It's just is what it is. But yeah, it feels new, and it feels early,
Mm.
and
Mm.
but it's going to come with a lot of pain. I think it's going to come with a lot of
Mm.
pain for a lot of people. So it's weird time. It's a very weird time.
It
I have very conflicted
Yeah.
feelings. Yeah.
Sometimes I feel the same way. Then I have to ask myself, like, do I just live in a bubble? And of course, the answer is yes.
Yes.
But
We
yeah,
both do.
no, like, but even when talking to my friends that don't care, like, about Tesla or even in general, like, I think they kind of share the sentiment as well. I'm not sure how much of that is just like, being associated with me, let's say, or whatever.
Mhm.
Do you want to take a Twitter from Rober here? I saw
Hell
a
yeah.
Twitter.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Let me go
What's
ahead
maybe the
and
best
so I'm gonna
here
do what
for
I did
everyone?
last time.
Oh, are you okay?
Yeah.
Everyone on YouTube, stick where you are. But we're gonna take a little listener question or comment here from Rober on Twitter.
All right, here we go.
Rober, I guess you have to let him in here. He's just connecting. 308.95, by the way, sitting on Tesla. Rober, feel free to unmute yourself whenever you're ready to talk here. Maybe he's not. Oh, there he is.
Thank you. I was just trying to link this. I was going to mention the in the UK. There's that rental company, and a couple of them, but Onto is one of them. It's only electric car rental now at the moment, and some people have said that that's the only way that they can get into EVs at the moment.
Thank you, Robert, for your question. I'll answer. Farzad, do you have a comment on that?
Yeah, it sounds like the rental companies are really if I understood the question correctly, the rental companies are really the only way to get into a EV in the UK. It sounds like right now, as far as the masses go. Yeah, I'm not familiar with the market much, so I'm not really sure how to answer that question. But I think along those lines, what's interesting is these are really marketing tools. If you really think about it, for AVs on the whole, you have a company like Hertz, for example, in the US, that's made a deal with Tesla to buy 100,000 Teslas or something. Plus, they're buying other EVs from other
Mhm.
automakers. These are marketing arms for the company in a way, because it's going to give exposure to folks that typically wouldn't have any access to an EV. Now they do. And it's going to continue the snowball effect if they feel that car fits their lifestyle, of transitioning even faster towards EV. So it's a snowball. It's a flywheel. It's the more Teslas are on the road and the more EV cars are on the road, the faster they sell. That's just what happens. It's when
Yep.
you have a superior technology at cost parity, it's natural for that to happen. So yeah,
It
it adds to it.
Yeah, and I think it's a very interesting observation about rental cars or rental car companies or subscription, I guess, based companies now, because that shows you where the future is. I think if you want to follow where the market is headed, you have to follow the commercial or the enterprise level of any market really first to see where the consumer market may be heading later. So I think the fact that there are entrepreneurs out there building subscription based businesses for just EV platforms for people to rent from, that's not unique. Like you should be able to rent from Turo or anything, but the fact that they're niching around just EV subscription,
Yeah.
and I saw a comment here on YouTube says On2 is an EV rental company. Yeah, the fact that they're niching around this shows you how powerful not Tesla is. Of course, Tesla is, but the brand is, but how powerful the EV metric is going to be moving forward for a lot of entrepreneurs and basing everything around that.
Yeah, I think what we're likely to see is going to be a higher utilization per vehicle, and like remove autonomous from the equation completely. Like think about the dynamic of low supply of EVs, high demand for EVs, and the fact that people are going to be holding on to their cars. One would think, anecdotally, but I think there's a good argument to be made here that is, again, cost parity or cheaper. You have a superior product. Why would anybody spend money on a thing that's going to depreciate in value, right? So, and you're not, and unless we have a cataclysmic event where we erase people from the world, you're going to have a higher unit capacity there's going to be more people utilizing the same cars than they were before. So all these ride sharing, rental cars, whatever that means, it's going to start shifting until the EV production matches demand of folks looking to get into a vehicle. But then you throw autonomy into that equation and it completely throws, it just sort of, you destroy it, because now you have a solution that's going to be 50 to 80% cheaper than a regular car would be to operate on any given per mile basis, right?
And that's a great segue into the
You're welcome.
The awesome yeah, thank you. And the awesome speakers before us were actually talking about their FSD experience with the latest beta version, all that. But if you haven't heard already, Elon tweeted yesterday saying FSD beta 10.69.22 looks good, extending to 160,000 owners in US and Canada. And then he goes on to say that, or Tesla owner Silicon Valley asks, Elon, when will this speed up when noticing traffic? When is it going to happen? He said next month. And he said, actually, no, like the Autopilot AI team is also working on Optimus and actually Smart, Summon, and Autopark, which have end of month deadlines. So I found this really interesting that the fact that the Autopilot / AI team at Tesla is diverting resources away from FSD towards Optimus or to side features, if you want to call them that for now. It's like Smart Summon or Autopark. I mean, to me, I thought that I took this really positively. I took it to where, like, if you're an executive, why would you ever instruct your team to divert resources out of something unless you were confident that you were going to meet the deadline that you had for something? So if Elon says end of year beta wide release and all signs are pointing towards that, let's say, I mean, I took this as really positive personally. Curious to hear your thoughts on it.
Yeah, that's a very interesting point. So the very first thought that came to my mind, since for those that don't know, I was at the company for 4 years at Tesla, from 17 to 21. As soon as I saw have end of month deadlines and I saw like 4 gigantic projects on the tweet, I'm like, I feel really sorry for those project managers and program managers, because I can only imagine the level of anxiety they have after reading that tweet. So you can do it. You got it. You can do it. So that was my first thought.
They're definitely not watching this or
no, they're definitely not watching this. They're trying to figure out how to make this happen. And as a previous program manager at Tesla, like I felt anxiety reading that for those people. So, but it's great. But that's how stuff gets done. So I think the point you make is quite interesting, because it's implied, Juju, there you go. It's implied that the team is capable or has bandwidth to take on more than just solving full self-driving on the roads. So they wouldn't divert said bandwidth, or they wouldn't be open about having that type of diversion unless, like you said, they were confident that what they're working on is going to get done. It could also imply that the teams that they have expanded in scope, because they have more talented people working at these teams now. And this is sort of, if I tie this to the comment that Elon made, I can't remember when, but Tesla is an AI company. Tesla is becoming an AI company, you know, and they have AI divisions. An AI company would be working on this in parallel. So could it just be the beginning of not necessarily that the timeline of FSD is getting faster or they're diverting resources because they're confident? It could also mean that they are on track with FSD, and they always have been since Elon came out at the early this year and said we're going to get it done by the end of the year. But now, because they are experts in AI and they're an AI company, this is what AI companies do. They work on these things at the same time. So that for me, I think is just as exciting, is the fact that they've contextualize themselves as an AI company, and that messaging comes across in that tweet that says, "Yeah, and we're working on this stuff too. This is what we do now. This is what we do now." So,
and I mean, the push for AI Day originally was always recruitment based. Like that's where, like Elon even said, I forget back in the days who we were back in the days. Like it was, you know, we're talking like maybe a year ago, back when, you know, AI Day 1 was out, and Elon replied to someone complaining about like, oh, like, you know, no, Wall Street is never going to understand AI Day just the same way that they didn't understand Battery Day, blah, blah, blah. And Elon replied, and he was like, this is going to be a recruiting event. Our main goal here is recruiting awesome people to join the team. No experience needed, no degree needed.
Sure.
Apply here. So that's interesting. That's a subtle distinction that I actually didn't pick up on, the AI/autopilot team, like kind of like forcing them together there a little bit. What do you think that signals? Like, does that signal for AI Day 2 that we're going to get more than just a prototype? Is it going to be so. Okay? Let's hear your thoughts.
I really do think so. Ooh, I like the banner there. That was slick. Can I just give you a shout out for your production, FYI? You have really good production, dude. Like, respect. Seriously, you do a really good job. Juju Gang, man. Like, give him props. He does a really good job with this. It's hard. Like, what he does is hard. Like, I live stream. This is hard.
That's what she said. Okay.
Yes, that's what she said. All right, here we go. So, what the hell was I going to say? Fuck. Excuse my French. Oh my God, this is derailing so fast.
No, I'll get AI Day 2, and then potentially revealing something like a product/prototype.
So where my head goes to is the last time Tesla has released a product that somebody was able to reserve that was new was back in November 2019 with Cybertruck. That's the last time anybody was able to reserve a new product. So it's been 3 years. Before Cybertruck, you had basically every 6 months to a year, you had a new product coming out, essentially, that was unveiled for people to reserve. And of course, in the last 3 years, we've had COVID. So that's going to be a gigantic sort of it's going to mess up your plans for new products. And Elon very openly has come out and said, hey, you know, there's way too much demand for Model 3 and Y right now. Like, there's no reason for us to really invest time in new products because we just don't need to. We just have to focus on scaling. However, within that context, I do think the Tesla has a pipeline of products that Elon has been teasing for a while this year. You know, multiple times in interviews, he said, well, I don't want to talk about new products. I think we should hold them for their own event. I don't want to talk about new products because I think we should hold them for their own event. So here's an event that has come up, AI Day 2, that's very much going to show the bot for sure. We're going to see the bot live. But I do think there's an opportunity for Tesla to show a robotaxi and potentially maybe their next generation smaller vehicle that's going to be heavily based on the robotaxi platform as well. I think there's opportunities there. The smaller vehicle doesn't really fit, like a non-robotaxi doesn't really fit within the context fully, I don't think. But I think robotaxi has a chance to be shown. I really do think so. I think it would be wise for Tesla to do so if they think they're close to full self-driving being complete, so that they can start the discussions with the different jurisdictions that could. And we talked about this previously as well. You know, we talked about how different cities could be, you know, prime examples of taking this on first. There has to be a signal out there that Tesla is ready to unveil and get into this business for folks to start coalescing around that. You know, what are your thoughts?
So I before I get into my thoughts, I want to just ask, like, so what would be an example of Tesla unveiling a robo-taxi, let's say, in that context of unveiling?
That's a great question. Yeah. So I have this theory that, and I've talked to different people about it, but that I think Tesla's going to take an airline model with the robo-taxi where they're going to present like a shell, basically, that's going to have all the safety features, the drivetrain, so on and so forth. But the interiors are going to be fully customizable to whatever the fleet owner wants to do with that vehicle. So if they want to make the robotaxi to be specialized around commuting, or they want to be specialized around high density transportation, or maybe like an RV type thing, or I don't know, entertainment. You could when you don't have to have a steering wheel and forward facing seats, you can do anything. It just becomes a box that you can customize to whatever you want because you don't have to drive the vehicle anymore. But I think that Tesla will show a robotaxi, whatever that means. They're going to show a vehicle that can drive itself. It doesn't have pedals or wheels, and the seats are going to be configured in a way, or the platform is going to be configured in a way to fully take advantage of the real estate that you have within that box, call it, to cater to the market that will arrive in the next 5 to 10 years as autonomy becomes more and more adopted. That's what I think they'll unveil.
So is that like a white label model of the robotaxi where XYZ company could take it, put their own wheels, slap a logo on it, and it's a Tesla drivetrain? That is that kind of the product that you're talking about?
That's where my head is going. Yeah. So, like for example,
Okay.
Airbus and Boeing right now are the two basically primary airplane manufacturers in the world. But how many different airlines do you have? You got United, you got American, you got JetBlue, you got Spirit, so on and so forth. And all these planes are outfitted differently. You know, there are different decals on the outside, and then when you go inside, you know, you get additional leg room, you got bigger seats, you have free Wi-Fi. You know, the flight attendants are nice. You know, depends which one you're going on, right? I that's where my head goes for robotaxi. I think it seems like a natural way to maximize your production because you are essentially creating one version of the thing. You're making the robotaxi. You don't have to worry about general assembly because you're basically outsourcing general assembly to the fleet runners. And then all these fleet runners, to be able to run the robotaxi, they have to essentially, you're buying a Tesla robotaxi, cool. You're going to have to offer your services on the Tesla network, but the consumer is going to have the option to pick and choose which fleet providers they can rent from, depending on the type of vibe they want to have in the car. Maybe I want to take a robotaxi to downtown and I want to be able to freaking party with my wife, you know, by the time we get there. So maybe they have a fridge in there that I can drink alcohol or whatever. Or in places like California, you can have a hot box robotaxi, you know? There's a bunch of different things you can do.
I'm not sure if you're
here. So, yeah.
Oh, you're back. You're back.
Sorry.
Interesting.
I was getting a phone call. Sorry.
Oh, all good. I
Yeah,
was just
my
was
bad.
wondering what happened.
Yeah.
I'll get that. You know what? That's interesting. The only hesitation I have on that pushback on that idea would be, the model itself is not proven out. So before you can add a third party leg to that and try to white label this service and have it out to fleet operators, I still think Tesla needs to prove the model first. And so I think let's say Tesla internally knows, okay, well, we can release this version of FSD and, you know, we're pretty much there for level 5. Like let's just talk pie in the sky for a second.
Sure.
And they can release this. I still think it's in Tesla's best interest, because this hasn't really been done outside of certain geocached areas like Cruise or Waymo, that it makes sense for Tesla to first prove out the business model, but themselves, so they can prove it out as a case study. They can work through all the legwork of all the red tape in that said area, prove it out, show people the unit economics, and then sell that idea. Because I think the airplane model is great, but I think it's a mature industry at this point where to have an airline, they're pretty, like, it's really hard to start your own airline, of course, but it's pretty like black and white in terms of what you have to do, what licenses you need to operate, how much money you need, all this sort of stuff. With robotaxis, it's just not there yet in terms of just having an idea of what that entails, how to make it the best version. I generally love the free market idea, letting entrepreneurs innovate, open up the Tesla App Store for entrepreneurs to build stuff on. I just think Tesla needs to first prove it out first.
I think that's a great point. I think it's I could very much see that, Tesla releases the first version and that's their own interior and their own use case, right? But I think the complexity is going to come from the fact that when you have an autonomous car, what you think of a car is no longer applicable. Now you have a box that can take you from point A to point B, where you are not a driver. You are just along for the ride. So the interior of that car can be customized to God knows how many different things based on what the market's going to demand from that box, right? And I think for Tesla to become to offer the different types of interiors that are going to cater to that market is going to add complexity to the manufacturing, which Tesla does not want to do. They've always been around. They always capitalize. They always drive the message of we want this to be as simple as humanly possible, so we can crank out as many units as humanly possible. So that's why my head goes to maybe not version 1, but maybe 5, 10, 20 years from now, Tesla shifts to creating these robo taxis en masse with that shell. And then the fleet providers can decide how to outfit the interiors. And by then you'll have regulation has caught up, right? So they're like, okay, cool. Yep. This thing's super safe and never crashes. And you have the right airbags in there. We're not worried about the configuration so much. So you can kind of take a lot of liberties with what the interior looks like. I don't know. I think autonomy brings a ton of complexity in what humans want from the car, and Tesla hates complexity, and so that's why they're going to outsource the interior of the robotaxi. That's my basis behind this whole this thing. But your pushback is valid too. Like somebody has to prove it out. I think that's fair.
So let's take Dan here. But before we do, I see dozens of comments coming in on YouTube about the closing price guessing game. Yes, let's play the Tesla closing price guessing game. We have 12 minutes left here until close. Throw in the chat your or I guess Twitter thread your best guess on what Tesla closes at today. Remember, Price is Right rules. You have to be at or under to win the prize, which is virtual Juju, which I'll send your way through the camera. Let's take Dan here. Do you want me to pull it up first?
Yeah, I got him.
You got it? Okay.
Yeah. So accept his request, and then once he unmutes, I'll go ahead and bring him in on the thing. Yeah, I was getting a phone call. I'm getting a TV delivered. And I'm pretty sure it was a TV delivery guy.
Well, if you have to go, feel free to go grab it.
I'm good.
It's funny actually. Dan's just connecting in here.
Yeah.
It's funny. I actually have to run after this too because I'm trying to get our Strata condo to install EV chargers. So the electrician guys are coming in to give us a plan and everything. So it's going to be like 3 hours of me consulting with this guy with nothing I know about.
There you go. That should be fun.
Let's see here. Dan, if you're connected, let us know. Good, Dan. There we go. Okay, go whenever you're ready.
Just the question of all questions here. Assuming that we get FSD far enough forward that Tesla can start offering drives or a customer-based robotaxi with all of the fleet that's out there on the roads now. What day do you see what quarter or month or day do you see when Tesla will first offer, I'm going to guess 6 months of free rides and then convert it over after that to paid rides, kind of going after the same NHTSA approval kind of format that Cruise and others have had to do. Just wondering what you think for timelines on this.
And timelines for like full level 5?
5, right? Cruise and others have a safety driver in the car, but the car's doing driving, but the driver is there to get NHTSA to sign off that yes, you're ready for 5. But we start with a level 4 car where the driver's there, but you're providing free rides to get the experience and to get the miles and go from there.
Gotcha. Thanks, Dan, for the question. Appreciate you and appreciate your Yellowknife tips. Awesome.
Great question. Yeah.
So Farzad, just to yeah, sure. I'll take it first. I think actually no, you take it first because I think I have more of a controversial opinion on this.
Ooh, okay, fun.
Yeah.
Oh, am I back? Am I good? Hello.
You're good.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
I think so. The way I have the timeline in my head is for this to be impactful is that Tesla has to have full self-driving to a point where it doesn't do anything weird, right? So they need to maximize the acceptance of the population for this thing to catch fire. That's the way I think about it. My latest drive with 106922 from yesterday, the trend I'm starting to really see from the software development is that it's going from me having to baby the system to it becoming safe or like to it moving away from like call it unsafe from the very first versions. It was like literally couldn't do a lot. It was quite limited, and it would put itself into pickles sometimes. That's why you have to be a responsible tester. But it's moved away from that point, from what I've seen, largely to a safe system that does some weird things where a regular passenger, like I use my wife as a perfect example for this. My wife still gets freaked out when I have full self-driving on, because she's like, can you just take over? Like, what? Why the hell is it doing this? Like, this car behind me is going to get, like, it's anxiety inducing, and most people are going to feel uncomfortable in that car. It's slowly but surely moving into the direction towards where I think the mass population are going to be very comfortable and accepting and trust the vehicle that it's going to do the right thing at all times. So Tesla needs to get there first. Tesla needs to get there first for it to become like something that the public truly adopts. However, the fact that they're dramatically increasing the number of cars that are getting FSD here in the next day or two, with the update, plus their commitment to end of year full self-driving for the wide release, I think Q3 of next year, Q4 to next year, in select cities, they will offer that as an option for people to take on, or some form of thing where the mass population is going to have access to ride in a full self-driving Tesla, either assisted or not assisted. That's how I think about it.
Awesome. Actually, it's funny because I almost take both sides of that. I almost want to take both sides of that argument, because I do agree with kind of that timeline, and I had to Google it to just make sure. So, like, it's not even been 2 full years yet since FSD beta was released, right? So where it's come from to where it is crazy in that 2 years. I think we lose the forest for the trees a little bit. I don't have a unique experience with FSD beta, so I can't give the level of insight that you have on this. My answer to Dan's question, though, this I think end of year, because, and I see people already getting ahead of me on the comments here because of Las Vegas and the loop there that Tesla has. They've already applied for driverless approval there, I believe. Even if they have to throw in a driver just to run that course, which, by the way, I think it's just pretty much a straight line. Like, FSD should be able to handle that already. Like, I don't see, there's no traffic. Like, you're just going straight, right? So I think, to answer Dan's question, I think that's going to be the first place. Maybe there's a second place that they announce where they're actually going to do real robo-taxi work and driverless on the streets. So I'm not sure if this is a cop-out answer to Dan's question, but I think the Las Vegas loop with approval, and I think from the article I read, it could be by the end of this year even. So if there's a driver in that, I'm not sure, probably is, but I think that would be the first, like, oh, you can visit Las Vegas to try out FSD underground here.
So this is going to be a very limited part of the city, though, right? Is how you're thinking about it? Or are you talking about the whole city? Okay.
No, just that limited, like, I don't know how many kilometers it even is. It's not
What's
that long.
What's a kilometer? What's this kilometer word you're using, bro? What is this?
I mean, I don't know. Ask 99% of the world. I mean, like come on the metric system. It's so, but I guess that's kind of a cop-out answer, because Dan's like more so asking like in the city. But like I think that still qualifies for what he's asking. If you throw that out, though, I'm generally in your timeline of looking at this.
I was going to ask that. Yeah. So like if we, but I think you're right. I think what's becoming obvious to me is that, I shouldn't say that because I'm an idiot. So what I think is happening is that the strategy Tesla's going to take to roll out FSD is going to be regional. I really do think so. I don't think they're going to be like, FSD works everywhere, flip a switch, and then all these cities can have FSD now. I really don't think so. It's going to be Vegas, then it's going to be San Fran, then it's going to be LA, and go down the list. I think I really do think that's the path we're going to take. And I can't remember if it was with you or somebody else, Yashu, but we're talking about like, what are the likely next cities? I think it was you.
Right.
the,
Yeah.
the likely cities to get it, and we're talking about, okay, which governors and mayors have good relationships with Elon, and which ones are going to be willing to be very like lax with their like regulation and stuff, so that Tesla can operate in those jurisdictions and whatnot. It's going to be fascinating to watch the implementation, but I do believe it's going to be phased and regional, and for the entire United States to have access to FSD will probably take a few quarters, maybe even years, before the entire United States is able to operate on that, because New York City is a different monster than Las Vegas. New York City is a freaking
Yeah.
insane asylum in there.
Oh
So
yeah, for sure.
yeah,
I don't think I've jaywalked more than like my 8 hours I spent in Manhattan or something. Like
Yeah.
it's just it's just crazy there.
it's bananas.
So, yeah, and this is again why I still think Tesla can't outsource this to fleet operators just yet. They have to prove it out themselves first, and all the kinks and charging and making this infrastructure before they go ahead and find someone else to do it later. So
Yeah, that's fair. But I do think, however, presenting it as a like both can exist. I think Tesla can show their version of it that's going to be one inside, that's going to be chairs that face each other with maybe some places to put drinks and, I don't know, a karaoke machine, I don't freaking know, just whatever. But
Yeah.
they're going to say, but in the next 2 to 5 years, as regulation catches up and regulators are define rules around how to allow this to run as a shell, then our long-term strategy is to sell these shells to fleet operators so that you can decide what to do with whatever you want, so that we can introduce that variability in the market. But again, it could be 5 years, it could be 20 years, I don't know. But the end game, I think, is going to be that.
Yeah, you almost like get to this point, like, and this is pie in the sky, of course, but like you can pair, let's say if you're going to for a road trip, you're going 6-hour road trip somewhere far, let's say for cross country for work or something. Well, you can like pair, like if you're rich enough, I guess, like maybe this could be a market where like you could hire a masseuse for one of those hours or something, like, and you can just, but the problem is like I get car sick really easily if I'm not looking straight out the window. So I'm not sure how that's actually going to work. But
yeah, that's a good question. I wonder if there's a way to maybe mitigate that with suspension and maybe the graphics on this. Maybe like the whole inside is just a one big screen, Maybe they're able to like simulate an environment. I don't know. That's a good question. Yeah.
Or Xanax or something.
Or Xanax, yeah. Just there's just pills coming out of like a corner of the car. It's like, yeah, take this.
That's the pharmacy model, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's just some extra gross margin for the quarter. That's all it is.
Massage, yeah. Can I put in my price guess here 1 minute before close, or is it too late?
Oh, yeah. No, damn.
I'm kidding.
Yeah.
It's all good.
Okay, well, throw it in, but if you win, you can't win. So.
All right. 308.74.
That's the latest official guess that's ever happened on stream. We have 17 seconds here to close.
All right. 308.74. Come on, baby.
Oh, by the way, I do have to give a shout out. A couple of GG Gang members over the weekend sent me an email. One of them created an entire site for the guessing game. The other person created a Google Sheets with the Google form connected, and both, like, I don't know which solution I'm going to take, but like, shout out to you guys for sending that my way, and I'll talk more about it on Friday, I think. Okay, well, the market just closed. 308.67 is the closing price, I believe, unless it settles here a little bit differently. And I actually think Richard Hoffman came on the dot on this one, and guessed it, I believe, right on the money.
Richard is the man.
Yeah, Richard was on your stream last week, I believe, right?
Yeah.
It was just good juju. It was bound to happen.
308.73. No?
Oh, it just updated. Yeah, the closing price. That
I
happens.
missed it by 1 penny.
Oh, did you say 75 though?
74, I thought.
Oh my god.
I could be wrong.
I think the winner actually is Dan Snyder, coming in at 308.69. On Twitter Spaces though, we have Tesla Herbert coming on if you want to let him in. And there we go. And I appreciate everyone tuning in on YouTube and joining us for this awesome live stream. And hopefully we can keep this Tuesday thing going. And of course, thank you to my guest Farzad for joining me for another awesome week here.
Thank you so much for having me, man. It's always a pleasure and an honor. Thank you very much. Appreciate you. Appreciate the Juju gang. Thank you all.
Take care, everyone on YouTube. Peace out, and I'll catch you in the next one.
Peace.